Money does not care if you understand it. It moves the same way whether you can name what it is doing or not. The only difference is who gets to keep it. You are 22 years old, sitting in a break room, and someone at the table says the word diversification. You nod. You do not know what it means. You have $412 in a checking account and a phone bill due in 3 days, and the word floats past you like it belongs to another species of person entirely. Here is the part nobody tells you. That silence, that little nod you give when you do not understand, will follow you for years if you let it. Not because you are incapable, because nobody ever sat you down and translated the language. So answer this honestly before we go further. When someone mentions the stock market do you lean in? Or do you go quiet and wait for the topic to change? At this level, your entire financial vocabulary is borrowed. You say, I am not really a numbers person, and you say it the way some people say, I am not a morning person, like it is a fixed trait instead of a gap you could close in an afternoon. Your coworker Danny talks about his 401k like it is a mystery box that occasionally gives him money. Neither of you has ever opened a single statement all the way through. You avoid these conversations the way you avoid a call from a number you do not recognize. Not because you are afraid of the money, because you are afraid of being asked a follow-up question you cannot answer. The rule at this level is simple. Silence does not protect you from looking foolish. It only guarantees you stay foolish for longer. Something shifts. Not in your bank account. In your evenings. You are 26 now, and you have started reading. Not because someone forced you. Because you got tired of nodding. You learn what a stock actually represents. Ownership. A small sliver of a company, not a lottery ticket. You learn the difference between a stock and a bond. It embarrasses you a little how simple the answer turns out to be once you finally look it up. Danny still calls his account the mystery box. You do not correct him anymore. You used to. Now you just listen. You notice the gap between you widening, not because you are trying to outpace him, but because you are no longer standing still. You have maybe $11,000 saved, most of it doing nothing in a savings account earning almost no interest. But you know the word compounding now. You know it is not a marketing term. It is math, patient and indifferent, working in your favor or against you depending on which side of it you stand on. The rule at this level is this. Understanding a word does not make you rich, but refusing to understand it guarantees someone else gets rich off your confusion instead. Something shifts. Not in your paycheck. In the questions you ask out loud. You are 31. You are at a dinner with your partner's family, and her uncle, the one who always seems slightly too pleased with himself, starts talking about his portfolio allocation. 80% equities. 20% fixed income. He says it waiting for someone to look impressed. You ask him why that ratio. Not because you want to challenge him. Because you actually want to know. And for the first time in your life, you watch a grown man pause because he has never had to explain the reasoning behind the sentence he has been repeating for a decade. This is the moment the sentence gets corrected. Not loudly. Not with triumph. Just a quiet exchange where you realize you are no longer the one nodding along. You have started your own accounts by now. A retirement account, a modest brokerage account, somewhere around $43,000 total, spread across a handful of index funds you actually understand the purpose of. You know what an expense ratio is. You know why a fund charging you almost nothing every year matters more over 3 decades than picking the one hot stock everyone is talking about at parties. The rule at this level is this. The people who sound the most confident about money are not always the ones who understand it best. Confidence and literacy are 2 different currencies, and only one of them compounds. Something shifts. Not in your title at work. In how people ask you questions instead of the other way around. You are 36. A younger cousin calls you nervous, asking what she should do with a small inheritance. $8,000 from a grandmother she barely got to know. She does not ask her father. She asks you. You do not lecture her. You ask her what she is trying to build first. An emergency fund. A down payment fund. A long horizon she will not touch for 20 years. The advice changes completely depending on the answer. You know that now. It feels strange, being the calm voice on the other end of a call you used to be the nervous one making. Your own accounts have grown past $200,000 now, not from a single brilliant decision, but from years of unglamorous consistency. You talk about your money differently at dinners now. Less bragging. More precision. You say things like time horizon and risk tolerance and dollar cost averaging, and you say them the way a carpenter says miter joint, not to impress anyone, just because is the correct word for the thing. The rule at this level is this. Fluency is quiet. The people who actually know what they are talking about rarely need to raise their voice to prove it. Something shifts. Not in the size of your house. In the size of the room you are willing to sit in. You are 42. You are invited to a small dinner by a former client, the kind of dinner where the conversation drifts casually into terms like tax loss harvesting and asset location. Nobody at the table blinks. Everyone here already speaks this language fluently. If you have made it this far in the story, you already know the uncomfortable truth. Most people never even get invited to this table. Not because the door is locked. Because they never learned the password, and nobody sat them down to teach it. That is exactly why this channel exists, to hand you the vocabulary nobody handed you first. Subscribe now, because the next level is where the language stops being about surviving and starts being about choosing. Your portfolio has crossed $1 million. It did not happen with a single dramatic bet. It happened because at every stage you replaced one borrowed sentence with one understood sentence, and you kept doing that year after year, long after it stopped feeling urgent. The rule at this level is this. Wealth is not the reward for knowing everything. It is the reward for refusing to stay ignorant of the few things that actually mattered. Something shifts. Not in your calendar. In your posture, at the table. You are 50. You sit on the board of a small family foundation now, and the conversations have changed shape entirely. Estate structuring. Generational transfer. Charitable giving strategy. Words that once would have made you want to leave the room now feel like tools in your own hands, ones you can pick up and set down with intention. Your net worth sits somewhere north of $4 million, spread across investments, property, and a business stake you built slowly and did not rush to sell. You sleep well. Not because the number is large, because you finally understand every part how it got there, and understanding removes the low hum of anxiety that used to sit underneath every financial decision you made in your 20s. You take your mother to a nice dinner without checking your account first. You cover your nephew's tuition gap without a second thought. You do it quietly without turning it into a lesson about money because you remember exactly what it felt like to be handed help wrapped in judgment. You refuse to repeat that. The rule at this level is this. Real wealth is not the absence of worry about money. It is the presence of enough understanding that the worry simply has nowhere left to live. Something shifts. Not in your bank statements. In whose questions you now answer. You are 57. Your portfolio has crossed $10 million, built across 4 decades of decisions that were rarely exciting and almost always correct in the boring compounding sense of the word. You are calm in rooms that used to intimidate you completely. You are the uncle at the dinner table now. Except when someone asks you why your allocation looks the way it does, you do not pause. You built the sentence yourself instead of borrowing it from someone else. And then, at a family gathering, a young man across the table, 22 years old, nods along when someone mentions diversification. He says nothing. He does not know what it means. He is embarrassed to ask. You catch his eye. You remember exactly what that silence feels like. And so, without making it a lecture, without making him feel small, you lean toward him and ask what he actually wants to understand first. The rule that closes this story is the same one that opened it, said differently now. Money does not care if you understand it. But somebody, eventually, has to care enough to teach you. And now that person is you.